Hey everybody, this is Dan with FFB from the 50. It is week 6, which means we are starting the bye week blues. Now that bye weeks have started, we're going to start producing a video that's going to come out every single Thursday talking about the injury reports. With rosters shrinking due to bye weeks, knowing who's in and who's out is more important than ever. So this week we're going to start with quarterbacks. The 4 quarterbacks out due to bye weeks this week are Jared Goff, Davis Mills, Ryan Tannehill, and Derek Carr. Going through the injury reports, Baker Mayfield does not look like he is going to play. For fantasy purposes, I am not sure that matters. PJ Walker is not a downgrade for fantasy purposes. Jameson Winston has returned to practice on a limited basis for the Saints. We'll see if he's able to return this week. Carson Wentz is dealing with a bicep injury. A lot of reports are saying it's also a shoulder injury. He is expected to play tonight versus the Bears. Tua and Teddy Bridgewater have both already been ruled out for the Miami Dolphins. It is Skylar Thompson time. Go ahead and start him if you need to. Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a minor thumb injury that is not expected to have any impact on his ability to play this week. Dak Prescott is improving but is still out. Cooper Rush is starting once again for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not sure that this week is the week I would start him since he's got a matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. Mac Jones is listed as questionable, but it does not look like he's going to be able to return. It is still Bailey Zappi time for New England. And Jacoby Brissett is only rostered in 8%. So if you're looking for a quarterback play with injuries and with bye weeks, Jacoby Brissett may be one that you want to put in there. Like I said, only rostered in 8% across Yahoo leagues. However, he does have a bad matchup this week against New England. Daniel Jones is only rostered in 27% of leagues. He's got a matchup against Baltimore, who has been roasted in the secondary this year. Matty Ice for the Colts is only rostered in 28% of leagues. This week he's going against Jacksonville. However, if you need to go out and pick up a quarterback, for me, the bye week flyer for this week is Jimmy Garoppolo. Only rostered in 34% of the leagues this week. He is going against the Atlanta Falcons. So Jimmy Garoppolo has a mouth-watering matchup, only rostered in 34% of the leagues. He is my quarterback to go out and grab off of free agency or waivers to start this week. All right, moving over to the wide receivers. Looks like the Saints are dealing with still several injuries to their receiving group. Chris Olave is still in concussion protocol. Jarvis Landry is still not practicing with his ankle injury. Michael Thomas is not practicing. His list is questionable with his toe injury. But I would go ahead and fire up both Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara with confidence this week. Last week, when all 3 of the wide receivers went down for the Saints, there was nobody that really stepped up. It became the Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara show. In other news, T. Higgins still is not practicing for the Cincinnati Bengals. Deontay Johnson is listed as questionable but is practicing. It sounds like he took a knee to the hip last week. The Washington Commanders have already ruled out Jahan Dotson. Also, Logan Thomas has been ruled out. We'll get to that in the tight end section. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Russell Gage and Julio Jones are not practicing. Chris Godwin did return on a limited basis. Rashad Bateman for the Baltimore Ravens is not practicing. Fire up Devin Duvernay with confidence. He is actually my number 1 pickup for this week. Christian Watson is not practicing for the Green Bay Packers. And don't forget, Sammy Watkins is still on the IR. Keenan Allen should get some limited work this week. They play on Monday night. Make sure you're staying tuned for the injury updates on Keenan Allen. All right, for the pickups this week, Alec Pierce is only rostered in 33% of the leagues. However, he has seen a steady target share the last 2 weeks. Tyler Boyd is only rostered in 55% of all the Yahoo leagues. This week, he may be a great pickup, especially with T. Higgins not playing, or at least looking possibly doubtful. Isaiah McKenzie should return from his concussion protocol this week. He's only rostered in 49% of leagues, and that game should be a shootout. Don't forget, Buffalo is playing Kansas City. And as I said, Devin Duvernay is my must-start pickup. He is only rostered in 65% of the leagues that I play in. And last week, they actually used him a little bit in the run game, so it looks like his role is expanding. With Rashad Bateman looking doubtful this week, not practicing on Wednesday, Devin Duvernay is my number 1 pickup for this week on wide receivers. Okay, looking at running backs on bye this week, we've got DeAndre Swift, Dameon Pierce, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs. For the injury report, Saquon Barkley is listed as questionable. He did have to leave last week's game for a bit, but was able to return. He is practicing on a limited basis and should be able to suit up this week. And a surprising piece of news, Damian Harris has returned to practice on a limited basis and is listed as questionable this week for the Patriots. Some reports had him missing multiple weeks. Even if Damian Harris does play, I would not expect him to have his normal workload or be very effective. Down for the Arizona Cardinals is Darrell Williams, who is listed as doubtful. James Conner is listed as questionable and did not practice. For the Colts, Jonathan Taylor is still not practicing. Frank Reich did say he was optimistic that Jonathan Taylor would be able to return this week, but we'd like to see him get into practice. On a more positive note, Nyheim Hines was able to return to practice on a limited basis. Looks like he is steadily moving his way through the concussion protocols. For the Miami Dolphins, Raheem Mostert is banged up and did not practice today, or on Wednesday. It looks like he is questionable for this week. That's big news because he's definitely taking control of that backfield. So the number one pickup this week on free agency is Eno Benjamin. He is only rostered in 10% of the leagues, with both James Conner being questionable and Darrell Williams listed as doubtful. And a juicy matchup versus Seattle, he is the pickup of the week. There is a second, almost a tie for pickup of the week, Tevin Coleman, who is only rostered in 7% of all rosters, is playing in a juicy matchup this week against Atlanta. Tevin Coleman was actually featured quite a bit last week for the San Francisco 49ers in both the passing and running game. Joshua Kelly is only rostered in 1% of all leagues on Yahoo. He's playing against Denver, which is a tough matchup. We are seeing some usage uptick for him. And Mike Boone, also playing in that game for the Denver Broncos versus the Chargers, is only rostered in 36% of leagues. He did see more workload last week, as we expected with Javonte Williams being out and Melvin Gordon's fumbling issues. Moving on to tight ends, TJ Hawkinson, OJ Howard, and Darren Waller are all out this week on bye. Thank goodness this one is a very short list. Tyler Higbee is listed as questionable. He did not practice on Wednesday. That was considered a rest day. He is expected to suit up. Taysom Hill was also listed as questionable. It looks like he was practicing on a limited basis. That may just be bumps and bruises due to his added usage last week. Fire up Taysom Hill with confidence, especially with the wide receiver situation not looking so good for the Saints. Okay, some early pickups. Evan Ingram is only rostered in 30% of all leagues. The Jacksonville Jaguars are playing against the Colts this week. In week 2, he saw 8 targets against them. Hayden Hurst is only rostered in 60% of all leagues. 2 weeks in a row with a touchdown, and with T. Higgins being possibly out this week for Cincinnati, fire up Hayden Hurst if you need a tight end. Will Dissly is only rostered in 22% of all leagues. He is playing against Arizona this week. Will Dissly has already scored 3 touchdowns, and Arizona is being torched by tight ends. 4 tight ends have already scored double-digit points this year against them. So in a thin position, Will Dissly is a good pickup. And don't forget about Hunter Henry. He is only rostered in 36% of all leagues and served as Bailey Zappe's check down last week. Looks like Bailey Zappi will most likely be starting again for the Patriots this week. All right, folks, so there was a quick look at the injuries going into Week 6. This is something we're going to do on a regular basis now that bye weeks have began. It is more critical now than ever that you know who is in, who is out, with bye weeks already taking up some of those players that we would have otherwise wanted to start. All right, folks, I'm going to let you go. Until next time,